Even though there are many good-hearted people in the world, there are always those who are driven by money. Such people are cruel, selfish, and dangerous. There are times when money-obsessed individuals are willing to kill to get their hands on some hard cash. Despite the appearance of a classic case about a murder committed by an evil individual out of greed, the story of Jemma Mitchell and Kuen Chong is nothing short of horrific. Jemma Mitchell grew up in Victoria, Australia. When Jemma's parents separated in the early 2000s, she moved to London with her mother, Hilary, and her sister. Despite her parents' divorce, Jemma lived a privileged life and was well cared for by her mother. In 2004, Jemma graduated with honors from King's College in London with a degree in human science. She received excellent grades during her time there. During college, Jemma took a class called Structural Basis for Human Functioning. Jemma dissected a human corpse in that class and earned awards for her expertise. At the time, there were many bright prospects for Jemma Mitchell in the future. She was smart, intelligent, and talented. By 2009, Jemma had enrolled in the British School of Osteopathy. An osteopath uses muscular and skeletal manipulation to restore health across the entire body without drugs or surgery. The practice of osteopathy is a complementary therapy. To improve health, patients should use it in conjunction with conventional treatments. On her website, Jemma Mitchell had claimed that she was attuned to subjects in neuroanatomy, genetics, and dissection of human cadavers. After graduating from osteopath school, Jemma returned to her hometown to work in a clinic in Victoria, Australia. Jemma lived in Australia for 7 years before returning to London with her mother and sister. Despite living in a mansion, it had grown unimaginable and needed renovations desperately. Jemma's relationship with her sister began to deteriorate upon returning to London. It had got so bad in 2016 that Jemma was arrested for violating a restraining order her sister had issued. She was released from jail, and her sister did not pursue any further charges against her. Later, Jemma's sister moved out, and Jemma stayed with her mother in the rundown mansion. Things only got more difficult for Jemma after she was arrested. Due to her failure to register her osteopathic license, Jemma couldn't work. Out of boredom, Jemma and her mom renovated the mansion. They paid several contractors to come out and work on their residence, but got cheated out of their money by scam artists who swindled them out of their money. Because Jemma and her mother lacked the money and workers to finish the roof repair, they covered it with a tarp. The two women were broke, couldn't afford to fix the half-finished work, and needed help figuring out what to do next. After making a new friend at church in 2020, things started to look up for the former osteopath. Jemma became friends with Kuen Chong, also known as Deborah Chong. Chong was Malaysian but lived in London for over 30 years. In her late 60s, she was a widow and very religious. As a paranoid schizophrenic, Chong took medication to deal with her symptoms of her illness. Even though paranoid schizophrenia can sometimes be a danger to society, Chong never acted violently. Whenever Chong's illness symptoms started acting up, she thought she was romantically involved with Prince Charles. Sitting in front of the computer for hours, she would watch interviews with the prince, thinking he was speaking to her. Chong addressed the Prime Minister of England and Prince Charles in several letters. Throughout her letter to Prince Charles, Chong expressed her love and desire for him, and in the letter to the Prime Minister, Chong outlined her concerns. Although Chong never threatened Prince Charles or the Prime Minister, the letters were considered a threat by security, and she was sent for a mental illness evaluation. In Chong's examination, the doctors determined she was not a threat to society, but believed she was having an episode of her mental illness when she wrote the letters. Because of her training in osteopathy, Jemma Mitchell offered her spiritual healing services to Chong. Jemma's financial situation makes one wonder if she had ulterior motives when she pushed her friendship on Mi Chong. Upon the death of her husband, Mi Chong inherited a significant sum, and everyone who knew her knew she was generous with her money. Previously, Mi Chong had opened her doors for several weeks at a time, free of charge, to friends, without asking for anything in return. All Jemma talked about was that her house needed renovations. Mi Chong must have picked up her friends' hints because the generous widow offered to fund Jemma's repairs. Jemma and her mother were overjoyed. However, Mi Chong rescinded her offer several days later. As much as Mi Chong wanted to lend Jemma money, it wouldn't work out for her financially. Since Jemma was relying on Mi Chong's money for renovating her home, she was furious and frustrated. One way or another, Jemma would get what she felt Mi Chong owed her. On June 11, 2021, Mi Chong's roommate became concerned when she hadn't seen her in 24 hours. Mi Chong's roommate knew Jemma Mitchell was one of Mi Chong's few acquaintances and contacted her. After Mi Chong's roommate messaged Jemma to ask if she had heard from Mi Chong, Jemma answered that Mi Chong had left. According to Jemma, Mi Chong was very depressed and said she was moving to an area near the ocean where her family lived. Mi Chong's roommate was suspicious of Jemma's claims. She knew Mi Chong would never leave without letting her know, nor did she believe the mentally ill 60-year-old was capable of traveling by herself. Even though Jemma Mitchell said Mi Chong had moved away, her roommate immediately headed to the police station to report her missing. In police interviews, Jemma Mitchell told the same story she told Mi Chong's roommate, that Mi Chong was depressed and left London. After questioning those who knew Mi Chong, police found no evidence of where she was, and the investigation was stalled for 2 weeks. However, a gruesome discovery was made in an idyllic beachside village that would blow the case wide open. On June 27, 2021, a woman on vacation in the idyllic town of Slocum, England, called 999 to report finding a body. When the dispatcher asked if she could identify the gender, the woman on the phone replied that she could not because the body did not have a head. Eventually, the body was identified as Mi Kuen Chong, or Deborah Chong. According to the medical examiner, she had been dead for at least 2 weeks before the tourist discovered her body. The medical examiners couldn't determine Mi Chong's cause of death because her body was too decomposed. He noticed she had broken ribs and received a blow to her head. Police officers in London started searching through CCTV footage to track Mi Chong's last movements. On the day Mi Chong was reported missing, a security camera outside her house caught a woman wheeling a large blue suitcase, which appeared to be empty, at 8 a.m. Officers identified the woman as Jemma Mitchell as she stepped out of view and into Mi Chong's home. 5 hours later, the camera captured Jemma leaving Mi Chong's house carrying a large blue suitcase. This time, however, the luggage appeared heavy and Jemma struggled to move it. Several security cameras captured Jemma wheeling the suitcase around London for several hours. In the video, Jemma is caught hailing a taxi and struggling to load the luggage into the back. A neighbor's security camera caught Jemma arriving home and entering her yard with the large, heavy blue suitcase at 6:15 p.m. Moments later, she leaves the yard with her luggage visibly lighter. Security footage from the hospital emergency room captures Jemma Mitchell holding a bandage to her hand that evening. When Jemma was treated, she told the doctors she had broken her finger after she slammed the car door shut on it. On CCTV footage, Jemma Mitchell is seen loading a blue suitcase into the trunk of a Volvo 2 weeks after Mi Chong disappeared. Investigators discovered that Jemma Mitchell had rented the Volvo. Later that day, Jemma is seen driving a Volvo 50 meters from where Mi Chong's headless body was found the following day. London police believed there was enough evidence to arrest Jemma Mitchell for the murder of Mi Chong.
Come on a second.
Sorry, can I
Jemma, do you want to come up?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just want to see them.
Hand just so see your hands. Alright, Jemma, at this moment, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. Okay?
When police arrived at Jemma's house to take her into custody, she was kind and polite to them. Investigators searched Jemma Mitchell's mother's house after her arrest and found more incriminating evidence implicating her in Mi Chong's murder. They discovered Mi Chong's passport, bank cards, and a fraudulent will. According to the documents, Mi Chong allegedly left everything to Jemma and her mother. Additionally, investigators discovered a large blue suitcase seen in the CCTV footage that contained Mi Chong's body. In October 2022, the trial began. During the trial, prosecution revealed that Jemma Mitchell broke into her deceased neighbor's home, Virgil. Jemma stole Virgil's passport and cell phone and then used the dead man's signature on Mi Chong's fraudulent will. In addition, Jemma Mitchell contacted Virgil's cell phone company and asked them to turn the phone back on. She left her phone at home while driving Mi Chong's body to Slocum, but Virgil's phone was with Jemma and tracked her to the seaside village. According to the prosecution, Jemma Mitchell kept Mi Chong's body in her backyard for 2 weeks before she cut her head off. Then they claimed Jemma drove 4 hours to Slocum and left Mi Chong's remains there. Moreover, prosecutors presented evidence of Jemma's extensive knowledge of dissection and anatomy. Although Jemma Mitchell maintained her innocence throughout the trial, she didn't testify on her own behalf. In less than 7 hours, the jury returned a guilty verdict. During Jemma's sentencing, the judge told her she showed no remorse for her crimes and was in denial. Ultimately, he convicted Jemma and sentenced her to life in prison. Before Jemma would be eligible for parole, she would have to serve a minimum of 34 years.
That you will, in any event, be required to serve will be 34 years.
In an interview outside the courtroom after Jemma's sentencing, the detective who led the investigation said, "Mitchell has never accepted responsibility for Deborah's murder, so there are questions which remain unanswered. Why she kept her body for a fortnight, why she decapitated her, why she deposited her remains in Slocum. What we do know is that these were evil acts carried out by an evil woman, and the only motive clearly was the financial gain." Jemma Mitchell's mother, Hillary, said she would fight until the end for her daughter. Jemma could not have murdered Mi Chong, she insisted. Hillary argued that if Jemma's DNA wasn't on Mi Chong's body, how could she be convicted of murder? She said her daughter, Jemma Mitchell, plans to appeal. Even without DNA evidence, the prosecution provided the jury with overwhelming circumstantial evidence that Jemma was the murderer. Since Hillary was named in Mi Chong's fraudulent will, investigators wondered if she was more involved in Mi Chong's murder. The theory is still under investigation. What do you think about the murder of Mi Chong? Did Jemma Mitchell receive an appropriate sentence? Is there any way she is truly innocent? Does Jemma's mother, Hillary, have more to do with the crime than she says? Let us know in the comments, and as always, don't forget to hit the bell icon and subscribe.